The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in the darkness between three suns. Its metal walls gleamed like silver in the triple starlight. Inside the station, thousands of beings from across the galaxy lived and trained together. This was the Galactic Military Academy, where the best warriors from every world came to learn. Yunwu pressed his face against the transport window as their small ship approached the docking bay. He had never seen anything so huge. The station was bigger than any city on Earth. Lights blinked along its surface like stars. He could see other ships coming and going like tiny insects around a giant flower. "Look at that," whispered Da-un from the seat next to him. She held a small metal box in her lap. Inside the box something moved, but Hyunwoo could not see what it was. Da-un never let anyone look inside her special container. Tae-jin sat across from them with his arms crossed. He looked angry, but Hyunwoo knew he was just nervous. Tae-jin always looked angry when he felt scared. All three of them were scared. They were the first humans ever accepted into the academy. Most people back on Earth thought they would fail and come home in shame. The transport ship docked with a loud clang. Other beings started walking toward the exit. Hyunwoo saw tall blue creatures with 4 arms. There were short, hairy things that walked on 6 legs. Some beings looked almost like humans but had scales instead of skin. A few floated in the air without touching the ground. "Stay together," said Da-un as they followed the crowd. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook a little as she held her container. The docking bay was enormous. The ceiling stretched so high that clouds formed near the top. Thousands of new students moved in organized lines toward different gates. Signs in many languages pointed to different sections of the academy. Hyunwoo tried to read some of them, but the letters looked like dancing worms. A loud voice echoed through the bay. "New students report to Processing Center Alpha. Follow the green lights. Do not deviate from the marked path." Green lights appeared on the floor, forming a glowing trail. The 3 humans joined a river of beings all walking the same direction. Hyunwoo noticed that other students stayed away from them. Some pointed and whispered. Others just stared. "They think we do not belong here," said Tae-jin quietly. "Maybe we do not," replied Hyunwoo. "We belong here as much as anyone else," said Da-un firmly. "Earth is part of the Galactic Coalition now. We have the same rights as everyone else." But even she did not sound completely sure. The processing center was a vast hall filled with floating desks and holographic displays. Students lined up at different stations based on their species. The humans found themselves at a small desk in the corner with a bored-looking official who had green skin and too many eyes. "Species designation," the official said without looking up. "Human," replied Da-un. The official's multiple eyes finally focused on them. He made a noise that might have been a laugh or a cough. "Humans, yes, I heard some were coming. You are the primitive species from Sector He, 17739. The ones who still use chemical weapons and fight with metal sticks." Tae-jin stepped forward, but Da-un put a hand on his arm to stop him. "We are here to learn like everyone else," she said calmly. The official waved one hand and 3 data tablets appeared in the air. "Your room assignments and class schedules. Try not to die in the first week. It creates paperwork." They took their tablets and followed new green lights deeper into the station. The corridors were wide enough for 10 humans to walk side by side. The walls showed moving pictures of space battles and famous warriors from across the galaxy. Hyunwoo did not see any humans in the pictures. Their dormitory section looked different from the rest of the station. The rooms were smaller and the walls were a dull gray color instead of the bright silver used everywhere else. It felt like they had been put in the cheap section of a hotel. Hyunwoo's room was tiny with just a bed, a desk, and a small window. He could see other students through his window practicing combat moves in a training yard below. They moved so fast his eyes could barely follow them. A knock on his door made him turn around. Tae-yun and Tae-jin stood in the hallway looking just as confused as he felt. "I looked at the schedule," said Da-un. "Our first class is tomorrow morning. Advanced Combat Theory with Commander Zextal." "Who is Commander Zextal?" asked Hyunwoo. "I asked some other students," said Tae-jin. "He is Velthari. They are the warrior race that runs most of the military academies. They have natural armor and enhanced reflexes. They think they are the best fighters in the galaxy." "What do they think of humans?" asked Hyunwoo, though he already knew the answer would not be good. "They think we are weak," said Tae-jin. "Soft skin, slow reflexes, no natural weapons. They call us the species that fights with tools because we are too weak to fight with our bodies. Dayun's container made a soft humming sound. She looked down at it and the humming stopped. We will show them they are wrong, she said. How? Asked Hyunwoo. Look around us. Every other species here has some kind of advantage. Speed, strength, armor, multiple arms, psychic powers. What do humans have? Dayun was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled. We have something none of them expect. What? We have each other, and we have the ability to adapt to anything. She looked down at her container again, and some of us have help they do not know about yet. Hyunwoo wanted to ask what she meant, but other students were walking past in the hallway. They stared at the humans and whispered among themselves. One group of tall beings with silver skin and 4 arms laughed as they passed. Soft meat, one of them said loud enough for the humans to hear. Hope they taste good when the real training starts. Taejin started to move toward them, but Da-eun grabbed his arm again. Save it for when it matters, she told him. That night, Hyunwoo lay on his narrow bed looking out at the stars. Tomorrow they would begin their real training. He wondered if they would survive the first day. He wondered if any humans would still be at the academy by the end of the first week. Outside his window, he could see other students still training even in the darkness. They never seemed to get tired. They never seemed to doubt themselves the way he did, but maybe Da-eun was right. Maybe humans did have something special. He just hoped they would live long enough to figure out what it was. The alarm bells rang across Nexus Prime at 3 in the morning. Red lights flashed in every corridor as students stumbled out of their rooms in confusion. Hyunwoo pulled on his uniform and ran into the hallway where other cadets were gathering in worried groups. Da-eun appeared at his side, still holding her metal container. Even in the emergency, her grip on it never loosened. Taejin joined them a moment later, looking more awake than anyone else. He had always been a light sleeper. All students report to main assembly hall immediately, boomed the station's voice system. This is not a drill. Emergency protocols are now in effect. The 3 humans followed the crowd through corridors filled with flashing red light. Other species moved with different types of panic. The Velthari marched in perfect formation even in crisis. The blue 4-armed Cathari clustered together, making high-pitched chirping sounds. The floating Nexari drifted faster than Hyunwoo had ever seen them move. The main assembly hall could hold 10,000 beings. Today it felt too small. Every seat was filled and more students stood along the walls. The air buzzed with dozens of different languages as everyone tried to understand what was happening. Commander Zextal stood on the central platform. His natural armor plating caught the emergency lights and threw red reflections across his face. He was bigger than Hyunwoo remembered from their first class yesterday. His forearms moved as he activated a massive holographic display above the crowd. Students and faculty, his voice carried easily across the huge space. We have received a distress signal from Training Moon Gamma. A routine patrol mission has encountered something unexpected. The hologram showed a rocky moon covered in training facilities. Red dots marked several locations across its surface. As they watched, more red dots appeared and then disappeared. At 0200 hours, we lost contact with Patrol Squad 7. At 0230, we lost Squad 12. Squad 15 reported contact with an unknown hostile before their signals went dead. Zextal's voice remained steady, but Hyunwoo could see tension in his 4 shoulders. A new image appeared in the hologram. It showed the inside of a training bunker. Metal walls were torn open like paper. Equipment that should have weighed tons was scattered like toys. Dark stains covered everything. The automated security systems recorded these images before they were destroyed. The hologram shifted to security footage. Hyunwoo watched as armored Velthari soldiers moved through a corridor in perfect formation. Their weapons were ready and their movements showed years of training. Then something happened so fast the cameras barely caught it. A shadow moved between the soldiers. For just a moment, Hyunwoo saw something with too many teeth and claws like curved swords. The Velthari had time to turn their heads before they died. Their advanced armor meant nothing. Their weapons never fired. The footage ended with static. The Academy's central computer has identified the attacker, said Zextal. It matches records from the deep archive. A Nethys apex hunter. Whispers and gasps filled the hall. Students turned to each other with fear in their eyes. Hyunwoo did not recognize the name, but clearly everyone else did. For those unfamiliar with galactic history, Zextal continued looking directly at the human section. The Nethys were the perfect predators. They evolved on a world where everything else evolved to kill them. They became faster, stronger, and smarter than anything else in their ecosystem. Then they became extinct 3,000 years ago, or so we thought. The hologram showed an artist's drawing of the creature. It looked like death given form. Long limbs moved in impossible ways. Claws that could cut through starship hull. Eyes that seemed to see everything at once. Most terrifying of all was its size. It stood nearly 3 meters tall. This single creature has eliminated 4 full patrol squads in less than 6 hours, Zextal said. Each squad consisted of 12 trained Velthari warriors with military-grade equipment. The creature shows intelligence far beyond normal predator behavior. It is hunting systematically, eliminating threats before they can coordinate a response. Daun's container made a soft humming sound. She pressed it closer to her chest and the sound stopped. Hyunwoo noticed that her hands were shaking slightly. All classes are suspended, announced Zextal. Students will remain in dormitory sections under protective guard. Faculty and senior students will prepare defensive positions. This station is now under Threat Protocol 7. As students began filing out of the hall, Hyunwoo heard fragments of conversation around him. My grandfather fought the Nethys Wars, said one Cathari student. He said they were unstoppable. 3,000 years and one survived, whispered a Velthari cadet. How many more might be out there? Why now? Asked someone else. Why did it come here? The 3 humans walked back to their dormitory in silence. Emergency guards had been posted at every intersection. Advanced weapon systems that Hyunwoo had never seen before were being installed at key points. The entire station felt different now. Where yesterday it had seemed like a school, today it felt like a fortress preparing for siege. Back in the human section, they gathered in Hyunwoo's small room. Through his window, they could see transport ships arriving and departing constantly. Military vessels with heavy armor and weapons that could destroy planets. Do you think it will come here? Asked Taejin. Yes, said Daun immediately. It is hunting the strongest prey it can find. This academy has the best warriors from every world. If it wants a real challenge, it will come here. Her container hummed again, louder this time. When she looked down at it, the humming changed tone, becoming almost musical. What is in that thing? Asked Hyunwoo. Daun was quiet for a long moment. Something my brother found in the deep ocean trenches back on Earth. He was a marine biologist studying creatures that live in places no light ever reaches. He found this one at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, deeper than anyone had ever gone before. What kind of creature? The kind that evolves in the darkest places, she said. The kind that learns to survive by adapting to anything. My brother called it a symbiont. It bonds with other life forms to share abilities and knowledge. Taejin leaned forward. Are you saying you have some kind of alien parasite? Not alien, said Daun. Earthborn. But yes, it is a parasite of sorts. Or maybe a partner. My brother was not sure which. The container hummed again, and this time the sound was almost like singing. Taejin looked worried as she set it on the desk. It has never reacted like this before, she said. Not since the day my brother found it. It only makes sounds when it senses something that might be dangerous. Outside the window, more ships arrived. The largest military vessels Hyunwoo had ever seen took positions around the station. Their weapons could probably crack moons in half. Maybe it senses all the weapons, suggested Hyunwoo. No, said Daun, shaking her head. It started reacting during the commander's presentation, when he showed us the footage of that creature. She looked at her 2 friends with an expression that was half fear and half something else, something that might have been anticipation. I think it recognized what we saw, and I think it wants to meet it. Hyunwoo woke to complete darkness and the sound of his door chime failing to work. He fumbled for the emergency light button, but nothing happened. The entire station had lost power except for the dim red glow of battery-powered emergency strips along the floor. His door would not open. The electronic lock was dead. He pressed his face against the small window and saw other students doing the same thing in rooms across the courtyard. Everyone was trapped in their quarters. Then he heard the screaming. It started somewhere in the upper levels and moved downward like a wave. First one voice, then dozens, then hundreds. The sound echoed through the metal corridors of the station, making it impossible to tell where it was coming from or where it was going. A new sound joined the screaming. Metal being torn apart. The sound of claws cutting through starship hull like it was made of paper. Something was inside the station and it was moving fast. Hyunwoo's door suddenly hissed open. Tayun stood in the hallway holding her container in one hand and some kind of electronic device in the other. I overrode the lock system, she said quickly. We need to find Tae-jin and get out of this section. They ran to Tae-jin's room 3 doors down. He was already standing in his doorway looking confused and angry. The emergency lighting cast strange shadows on his face. What is happening? He asked. It is here, said Da-eun. Her container was humming loudly now, so loud they could all hear it clearly. The hunter found the station. An explosion somewhere above them shook the entire corridor. Dust fell from the ceiling and several emergency lights flickered out. More screaming echoed from the upper levels, but now it was getting closer. This way, said Da-eun, leading them toward the emergency stairs. We need to get to the lower levels, away from the main corridors. They climbed down 3 flights of stairs in darkness. Other students were doing the same thing, feeling their way along the walls and helping each other navigate. The screaming was all around them now, coming from every direction. At level 7, they found a group of students huddled in an abandoned classroom. About 20 beings from different species had gathered together for safety. 2 Velthari cadets stood guard at the door with emergency weapons. Several Cathari were treating wounded classmates with basic medical supplies. Commander Zexital sat against one wall holding his upper left arm. Dark blue blood seeped between his fingers. His armor was cracked in 3 places and one of his shoulder plates was missing entirely. Commander, said Da-eun as they approached. What happened to you? I encountered it, he said through gritted teeth. Level 12 Corridor C. It came out of the ventilation system faster than I could track. If Cadet Roth had not created a distraction, I would be dead. He looked up at the 3 humans with something that might have been respect. I have fought in 12 major conflicts across 4 sectors of space. I have faced the Hive Queens of Arcturus and the War Beasts of the Omega Nebula. I have never seen anything move like this creature. A Kethari student named Yun Seo was working on the commander's wounds. She had 4 arms, which made her naturally good at medical work. It cut through his armor like it was not even there, she said quietly. Whatever metal those claws are made of, it is sharper than anything we have ever seen. Da-eun's container was vibrating now as well as humming. She set it on a nearby desk and stepped back. The other students moved away from it instinctively. What is that thing? Asked one of the Velthari guards. Something from Earth, said Da-eun. Something that might be able to help us. Help us how? Demanded Commander Zextel. No Earth creature could stand against a Nethys hunter. Your species barely survived your own planet's predators. The lights in the classroom suddenly flickered back on. For a moment, everyone looked relieved. Then they heard a new sound from somewhere in the corridor outside. Metal footsteps moving slowly and deliberately. Each step echoed like thunder in the enclosed space. The footsteps stopped right outside their door. Everyone in the room held their breath. The 2 Velthari guards raised their weapons, but their hands were shaking. Commander Zextal tried to stand, but his injuries were too severe. The Cathari students huddled together, making soft, whimpering sounds. A long shadow appeared under the door. Something was standing just outside, listening, waiting. Da-eun's container suddenly opened with a soft click. A small creature about the size of a house cat flowed out onto the desk. It looked like it was made of living liquid that shifted between silver and black. It had no eyes that Hyunwoo could see, but it seemed to be looking directly at the door. Do not move, whispered Da-eun. Do not make any sound. The shadow under the door shifted. Whatever was outside was moving its head back and forth like it was testing the air. The footsteps resumed, moving past their door and continuing down the corridor. Everyone waited until the sound disappeared completely before anyone dared to breathe normally again. It knew we were here, whispered Tae-jin. Why did it not attack? Maybe it did not want to waste time on trapped prey, suggested one of the Cathari. Commander Zextal was staring at the small creature on the desk. What is that? He asked Da-eun. A Terran symbiont, she replied. My brother found it in the deepest part of Earth's oceans. It has been dormant since I brought it here, but now it is waking up. The creature flowed across the desk like mercury. When it reached the edge, it extended part of itself downward to touch the floor. Where it touched, the metal seemed to change slightly, becoming more flexible. Waking up to what? Asked Hyunwoo. I think it recognizes the hunter as a threat, said Da-eun. And I think it wants to bond with something strong enough to fight it. Bond how? Asked Commander Zextal. Da-eun was quiet for a long moment. Complete cellular integration. The host and the symbiont become one organism, sharing all abilities and knowledge. But the process is dangerous. Many hosts do not survive the bonding. The creature had moved to the center of the floor now. It was larger than when it first emerged, about the size of a small dog. Its surface rippled with patterns that hurt to look at directly. An explosion shook the entire station. Much closer this time. The lights flickered again and stayed dim. More screaming echoed through the corridors, but now it was mixed with the sound of energy weapons firing rapidly. "The main security force is engaging it," said Commander Zextal. "They will not last long. This creature has had 3,000 years to perfect its hunting skills. Our people are fighting with tactics and weapons it has already learned to counter." Another explosion. This one was so close that ceiling panels fell into the room. Through the gaps they could see sparks and smoke in the corridor above. Dayun knelt down next to her symbiont. "The security forces will fail," she said. "The hunter will kill everyone on this station unless someone stops it." She looked around the room at all the frightened faces. "I know what I have to do, Dayun," said Hyunwoo, stepping toward her. "You said the bonding process might kill you." "It might," she agreed. "But if I do nothing, we will all die anyway. And maybe, just maybe, a human bonded with this creature can do what no one else has been able to do." The symbiont flowed toward her across the floor. When it reached her feet, it stopped and waited, like it was asking permission. "What makes you think you can succeed where trained warriors have failed?" asked Commander Zextal. Dayun smiled, but there was no happiness in it. "Because humans are the best at one thing that no other species has mastered. We are the best at becoming something new when we need to survive." The creature began climbing up her leg. The symbiont climbed Dayun's body like living water flowing upward. Where it touched her skin began to change color, shifting from human pink to a deep silver that seemed to glow with its own light. She gasped but did not cry out. "Dayun!" Hyunwoo started forward, but she held up her hand to stop him. "Do not touch me," she said through gritted teeth. "The process has started. If anyone interrupts it now, we will both die." The creature reached her shoulder and began spreading across her chest. Her uniform dissolved wherever it touched, replaced by something that looked like liquid metal armor. Dayun's eyes rolled back, showing only white as the symbiont reached her neck. Commander Zextal struggled to his feet despite his injuries. "What is happening to her?" he demanded. "Cellular integration," said a new voice from the doorway. Everyone turned to see a tall figure in academy medical robes. Dr. Minho stepped into the room carrying a portable scanner. He was the only human doctor at the academy and had been studying alien biology for 3 years. "Dr. Minho," said Hyunwoo with relief. "Can you help her?" The doctor ran his scanner over Dayun's changing form. "I cannot help and I cannot stop it," he said, reading the results. "The symbiont is rewriting her DNA in real time. It is integrating itself at the molecular level with every cell in her body." Dayun's hair turned silver and began moving on its own like it was underwater. Her fingernails extended into claws that gleamed like polished metal. When she opened her eyes, they were completely silver with no pupils visible. "The bonding creates a hybrid organism," explained Dr. Minho. "Neither fully human nor fully symbiont. Something entirely new that possesses the abilities of both forms." "What abilities?" asked Tae-jin. "Enhanced speed, strength, and reflexes. Adaptive camouflage. The ability to alter body density and composition. Most importantly, perfect sensory awareness and tactical analysis." Dayun stood up slowly. She moved with a grace that no human could match, like she was dancing to music only she could hear. When she spoke, her voice had a strange harmonic quality, like two people speaking at once. "I can hear it," she said. "The hunter. It is 3 levels above us in the main laboratory complex. It has killed 17 more people in the last 10 minutes. "How can you possibly know that?" asked Commander Zextal. "The symbiont connects to all living things within a certain range," she replied. "I can feel their life forces disappearing one by one. The hunter is not just killing randomly. It is eliminating anyone who might be able to coordinate a defense." Her new form was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The silver armor that covered her body shifted and flowed like it was alive. Parts of it became transparent while other parts grew thicker. Her face was still recognizably Dayun, but her features had become sharper and more defined. "There's something else," she said, looking directly at Dr. Minho. "The symbiont has absorbed some of the hunter's genetic material from the air. It knows what we are fighting." "That is impossible," said the doctor. "How could it analyze genetic material from atmospheric traces?" "The same way it has survived in Earth's deepest ocean trenches for millions of years. replied Dawoon. By adapting to anything it encounters. The hunter's DNA is ancient, but the symbiont's is older. An explosion shook the building again. This time it was close enough that pieces of the ceiling fell directly into their room. Through the new hole they could see into the corridor above, where emergency lights cast everything in hellish red. It knows we are here, said Dawoon. It has been tracking the symbiont's energy signature since the bonding began. It is coming for us. The footsteps in the corridor above were different now, faster, more urgent. Whatever patience the hunter had shown before was gone. Why is it coming here specifically? Asked Hyunwoo. Dawoon tilted her head like she was listening to something no one else could hear. Because it recognizes what I have become. For 3,000 years it has been the perfect hunter, the apex predator with no equals. Now it has found something that might be able to match it. Might be able to? Repeated Tae-jin. You do not sound certain. The symbiont gives me the tools to fight, she said. But the outcome depends on something else. Something uniquely human. What? The ability to understand your enemy instead of just destroying it. The footsteps stopped directly above them. Dust rained down through the hole in the ceiling. Everyone in the room looked up, expecting to see death itself looking down at them. Instead, they saw nothing but darkness. It is testing us, whispered Dawoon. Seeing how we react to fear. The Nethys were not just predators. They were intelligent. This one has learned to use psychological warfare as well as physical superiority. She moved to the center of the room, directly under the hole in the ceiling. Her silver armor began shifting, growing thicker in some places and sprouting what looked like sensor arrays in others. Everyone moved to the far corner, she ordered. What happens next will be dangerous for anyone too close. Da-un, said Hyunwoo as they backed away. Are you still you? She looked at him with those strange silver eyes. For a moment her face showed the friend he had known since they arrived at the academy. Then the expression changed to something alien and predatory. I am still me, she said, but I am also something more. The symbiont does not replace human consciousness. It enhances it. I can think faster, see more clearly, and understand connections that were invisible before. And what do you understand about our situation? I understand that this hunter has been alone for 3,000 years. The last of its species, wandering through space looking for prey worthy of its abilities. It is not just hunting us for food or territory. Then why? It is hunting us to prove that it still deserves to exist. A new sound came from above. Not footsteps, but something like singing. A low harmonic tone that seemed to vibrate through the metal of the station itself. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. It is calling to me, said Dawoon, challenging me to face it in single combat. Hunter to hunter. She looked around the room one last time at all the frightened faces, at Hyunwoo and Tae-jin who had been her friends since Earth, at Commander Zextal who had learned to respect humans through shared danger, at all the alien students who had discovered that survival mattered more than species. If I do not return, she said, tell them back on Earth that humans can become anything they need to become. We are not the strongest or the fastest or the smartest, but we are the most adaptable, and sometimes that is enough. The singing from above grew louder and more complex. It sounded almost like a greeting now, or perhaps a goodbye. Dawoon's form began to change again. Her armor flowed into new configurations that looked designed for speed and combat. Parts of her became translucent while others hardened into what looked like natural weapons. It is time, she said. Then she leaped upward through the hole in the ceiling with impossible grace, disappearing into the darkness above. The singing stopped, and the real hunt began. Tae-jin landed in the corridor above with perfect silence. The symbiont's integration allowed her to control every muscle and joint with impossible precision. She could see in complete darkness now and hear heartbeats from rooms 3 levels away. The hunter was waiting for her in the main assembly hall where this had all started. She could feel its presence like a cold star burning at the center of the station. It was not hiding anymore. It wanted her to find it. She moved through the corridors like liquid shadow. Her new form could flatten against walls or stretch around corners. The symbiont had given her abilities that no human had ever possessed, but her mind remained completely human. She could think and plan and hope in ways the hunter probably could not understand. The assembly hall doors had been torn off their hinges. Inside, the vast space was lit only by emergency lighting that cast everything in blood red. The creature stood in the center of the hall exactly where Commander Zextal had given his briefing about the threat. Seeing it in person was different from watching security footage. It was larger than the recordings had shown, nearly 4 meters tall when it stood at full height. Its body seemed to be made of living shadow that sometimes showed hints of terrible teeth and claws. Most disturbing were its eyes, which burned with intelligence that was ancient beyond human understanding. "You came," it said in a voice like grinding metal. "Good." Daun was surprised it could speak. The files had never mentioned Nethys' communication abilities. "You wanted me to come. I wanted to see what you would become. Your species fascinates me, so weak individually but capable of such interesting adaptations when threatened." The creature moved in a circle around her. Its steps made no sound, but she could feel vibrations through the metal floor. It was testing her reactions, looking for weaknesses. "You have killed many innocent people," she said. "I have killed prey," it replied, "as I was designed to do, as my species did for millions of years before we became extinct. But you are different. You might actually provide a challenge. Why does that matter to you?" The hunter stopped circling and looked directly at her with those burning eyes. "Because I am the last. When I die, my entire species dies with me. I want that death to have meaning. I want to fall to prey that was worthy of the hunt." Daun felt the symbiont analyzing the creature's movements and body language. It was feeding her information about weak points and attack patterns, but more importantly, it was helping her understand the hunter's emotional state. "You are lonely," she said. The creature's head tilted slightly. "Loneliness is a concept for social species. We Nethys were solitary hunters. But you are the only one left. That changes things." Perhaps. Without warning, the hunter moved. One moment it was standing 10 meters away, and the next it was directly in front of her with claws extended toward her throat. Daun reacted with speed that surprised even her, flowing backward and to the side while her armor hardened to deflect the attack. The claws that could cut through starship hulls scraped across her chest, leaving only shallow scratches. The symbiont had made her armor harder than anything the Nethys had ever encountered. "Interesting," said the hunter as they separated. "You adapted to my attack in real time. Your armor changed density and composition to counter my weapons." "The symbiont learns from every contact," Daun replied. "The more you attack me, the more resistant I become. Then I will have to kill you quickly." The hunter launched a series of attacks that came from impossible angles. Its body could bend and stretch in ways that defied anatomy. Claws came at her from directions where the creature had no limbs. She dodged and blocked and countered, but always one step behind its incredible speed. A claw raked across her shoulder, drawing silver blood. Another slashed her thigh. The symbiont was learning, but not fast enough. The hunter had 3,000 years of combat experience. "You fight well for such a young species," the hunter said as they circled each other again. "But you lack the instincts of a true predator." "Maybe," said Daun, "but I have something you do not have." "What?"
"Friends who believe in me." She could feel them far below.
Hyunwoo and Taejin and all the others watching and waiting, their hope and fear and love flowing upward through the station's metal bones. The symbiont could sense emotional states, and it was feeding her their strength. "Friendship is weakness," said the hunter. "It makes you vulnerable." "No," said Daun as her armor began glowing brighter. "It makes me stronger." The hunter attacked again, but this time she was ready. Instead of dodging, she moved forward into the attack. Her armor shifted to absorb the impact while her own claws extended to strike back. They crashed together in the center of the hall with a sound like thunder. For the first time since the hunt began, the Nethys creature staggered backward. Silver blood dripped from cuts across its chest and arms. It looked down at the wounds with something that might have been surprise. "You hurt me," it said. "The symbiont is not just adapting to your attacks," Daun explained. "It is learning your entire biology. Every time we touch, it understands you better, and now it knows exactly how to hurt you." The hunter's eyes burned brighter. Then this will be a proper hunt after all. What followed was a battle that shook the entire station. They moved through the assembly hall at speeds that would have been invisible to normal eyes. Taeyun's silver form flowed around attacks while striking back with growing precision. The hunter's ancient skill matched against rapidly evolving adaptability. They crashed through walls and floors, their combat carrying them through multiple levels of the academy. Other students and faculty fled before them or watched in awe from whatever safety they could find. But something was changing. With each exchange, Daun was getting stronger while the hunter was getting slower. The symbiont had analyzed every aspect of Nethys biology and was systematically countering their advantages. More importantly, Dayun was learning to think like her opponent. The symbiont was sharing the hunter's genetic memories, showing her 3,000 years of solitude and the desperate need for a worthy final battle. "You do not want to win," she said as they fought through the station's central core. "You want to lose to someone strong enough to make your death meaningful." The hunter hesitated for just a moment. In that hesitation, Dayun struck with claws that had become as sharp as any Nethys weapon. The blow sent the ancient predator crashing through a bulkhead into the station's main power core. Electricity arced around them both, but the symbiont's armor conducted it harmlessly away. The hunter was not so fortunate. Ancient tissue that had survived for millennia began to smoke and burn. "You understand," it said as Dayun approached. "Good, that makes this easier." "I do not have to kill you," she said. "We could find another way. No, this is the only way my story can end. But perhaps it does not have to be the end of everything I was." The hunter reached out with one clawed hand, not to attack but to touch her face gently. Where its claw met her armor, something extraordinary happened. Memories flowed between them. Not just the hunter's memories, but the memories of its entire species. "Now you carry us with you," it whispered. "The Nethys will not be forgotten." The ancient creature closed its burning eyes and died peacefully. In the ruins of the power core, Dayun knelt beside, the body feeling the weight of an entire species' history now, carried within the symbiont's vast memory banks. She was no longer just human and symbiont. She was the keeper of Nethys knowledge and the bridge between what was and what could be. Above her, the station's lights flickered back to life. 6 months later, Dayun stood on the observation deck of the new research station orbiting Earth's moon. Her silver armor had settled into a more human-like appearance, but she would never look completely normal again. The symbiont had changed her permanently, and she had accepted that change as the price of saving lives. Through the massive windows, she could see Earth turning slowly in the darkness. Blue oceans and white clouds and the lights of cities where billions of humans lived their lives without knowing how close they had come to losing everything. The council meeting went. "Well," said Hyunwoo as he joined her at the window. He wore the uniform of a Galactic Coalition diplomat now. After the events at Nexus Prime, all 3 humans had been fast-tracked through academy programs and given important positions. "They approved the new protection protocols?" asked Dayun unanimously. Every member species agreed that dangerous but intelligent creatures deserve preservation rather than elimination. "The Nethys archive you carry will be the foundation for an entirely new field of xenobiology." Dayun nodded. Through the symbiont's enhanced senses, she could feel the memories of the last hunter stirring within her mind. Not painfully, but like an old friend sharing stories. The creature's death had not been the end of its species after all. "Any word from Taejin?" she asked. "He sends his greetings from the Andromeda expedition. Apparently he found evidence of 3 more supposedly extinct species that might still have survivors scattered across distant worlds. The new search protocols you developed are working." Taejin had become the Coalition's leading expert on finding lost civilizations. His experience with the hunter had taught him to look for signs others might miss. Hidden settlements, ancient genetic markers, the subtle traces left by intelligent species trying to survive. "Commander Zextal wants to speak with you," said Hyunwoo. "He has a new request from the Velthari High Command." Dayun turned from the window. "What kind of request?" "They want you to train their elite guard units. Apparently having your enhanced abilities used for protection rather than hunting has impressed them greatly. They are calling you the first Guardian class, warrior in galactic history." Through the station's corridors, they walked past laboratories where human and alien scientists worked together on projects that would have been impossible before the Academy crisis. The integration of human adaptability with alien technology was producing remarkable results. In the main conference room, Commander Zextal waited with several other high-ranking military officials from different species. His wounds from the hunter attack had healed, but he still moved carefully. The encounter had taught all of them to respect forces they did not understand. "Dayun," he said as she entered, "thank you for coming. We have a situation that requires your unique abilities." "What situation?" "We have received distress signals from the Omega Sector. 3 colony worlds have gone dark in the past month. Investigation teams found evidence of systematic attacks by unknown creatures. The pattern matches pre-extinction Nethys hunting behavior." Dayun felt the ancient memories stir within her. "You think there are more survivors?" "We think there might be an entire hidden population." The last hunter you faced may have been a scout or exile rather than the final member of the species. She was quiet for a long moment, processing this information through both human logic and symbiont intuition. If there are more Nethys alive, they will be different from the one I fought. That creature was driven by loneliness and the need for a final worthy battle. A group would have different motivations. What kind of motivations? Asked one of the alien officers. Survival, territory, the desire to reclaim their place as apex predators. Much more dangerous than a single lonely hunter. Commander Zextal leaned forward. Will you help us make contact with them? Your experience with their psychology and your symbiont's genetic memories make you the only being in the galaxy who might be able to communicate with them successfully. Dayan looked around the room at faces from a dozen different worlds, all united by the need to protect their people. A year ago, these species had barely tolerated each other. The crisis at the academy had taught them to work together. I will help, she said, but not to hunt them or destroy them. If there are Nethys survivors, we need to find a way for them to coexist with the rest of the galaxy. Even after what they have done? Asked another officer. The colony attacks killed thousands of innocent beings, especially because of what they have done. The Nethys were shaped by millions of years of evolution to be perfect predators. We cannot expect them to change their nature overnight. But we can try to find alternatives to extinction. Through the station's communication system came a new message from Earth. Dr. Minho's voice filled the conference room with excitement. Da-un, you need to see this immediately. We have detected more symbiont signatures in the deep ocean. Not just one or two, but hundreds of them. Earth's oceans may contain an entire ecosystem of creatures similar to your partner. Da-un felt a surge of hope through her connection with the symbiont. If there were more of these adaptive creatures, they could potentially bond with other humans. Not to create an army, but to create bridges between species that had never been able to understand each other before. There is something else, continued Dr. Minho's message. Some of the new signatures are sending organized signals, complex patterns that suggest intelligence and communication. We may have discovered Earth's first non-human sentient species. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. Earth, considered one of the most primitive worlds in the Coalition, might actually harbor multiple forms of advanced life. Commander Zextal looked at Da-un with an expression that mixed respect and wonder. Your species continues to surprise us. First, you proved that physical weakness can be overcome through adaptability and cooperation. Now you reveal that your world contains mysteries we never imagined. Humans are good at finding hidden potential, said Da-un, in ourselves, in our world, and apparently in the universe around us. She stood and moved back to the window where Earth hung like a blue jewel in the darkness. Somewhere in those deep oceans were creatures that might hold the key to peaceful contact with dangerous species throughout the galaxy. Somewhere among distant stars were Nethys survivors who needed to find a new way to exist, and somewhere in the space between fear and understanding was the future of every intelligent species in the galaxy. When do we leave for the Omega Sector? She asked. Tomorrow, replied Commander Zextal. Your transport will carry the most advanced diplomatic and scientific equipment the Coalition has ever assembled. Good, but the most important equipment we are bringing is not technological. What do you mean? Da-un touched the silver armor over her heart where she could feel the symbiont's presence like a warm, constant companion, where ancient Nethys memories mixed with human dreams and alien hopes. We are bringing the understanding that survival is not about being the strongest or the fastest or the most dangerous. Survival is about finding ways to connect with others even when they seem completely different from yourself. She looked around the room at beings from worlds, separated by thousands of light years, who had learned to work together because circumstances forced them to look beyond their differences. That is what makes us human. Not our bodies or our technology or even our planet. What makes us human is our refusal to accept that understanding is impossible. And now that gift belongs to the entire galaxy. Outside the window, Earth continued its ancient rotation, carrying oceans full of mysteries toward whatever tomorrow would bring. And in those oceans, creatures older than civilization stirred with the knowledge that they were no longer alone. The hunt was over. The real exploration was just beginning.